Hi! Today I'd like to show you how to configure the Ethernet Y.1564 test on the MT1000A Network Master Pro. Y.1564 was developed in 2011 by the ITUT, International Telecommunications Union, and is a methodology for testing and evaluating the correct configuration and performance of an Ethernet network to provide Ethernet services. The main metrics of this test are information rate, frame loss, frame transfer delay, and frame delay variation. So let's get down to testing up the Y.1564 test on the MT1000A. After starting the instrument, we get to the main menu with all available applications. This menu may vary depending on the options installed. In the Ethernet line, click on the Y.1564 app and select the ports that we are going to test. We select one port, it will be the local MT1000A. After loading the application, we get into the setup window, in which we need to configure the physical interfaces. First, in the port tab of the local instrument, select the interface type from the drop-down list. Confirm the changes made. The interface is configured and launched. Here we can see at what wavelength the selected transceiver works and what standard it meets. Then, in the Streams tab, we should configure the corresponding MACs and IPs. You can use the default MAC and ARP request, as well as DNS and DHCP if required. Set the required IP and select the type of load. For more detailed settings of the stream, you can go to the Detailed Settings menu. All possible stream settings are available in this menu. On each of the tabs, the corresponding settings are highlighted. You can also select additional technologies, such as VLAN. Then the corresponding tab will appear to be able to configure the VLAN settings. Thus, you can configure up to 8 independent streams per port. The transition between streams is also available through the selection in the tab on the left. You can configure the streams independently, but to simplify and speed up the work, just copy the settings of the first stream into the second and third streams. Since we are simulating the behavior of two geographically separated MT1000As, we need to indicate the ability to exchange frames with the test settings. To do so, in the Settings tab, you must enable the Accept Network Master Configuration frames to be received. Next, we configure Sync E, PTP, or OAM if required. Return to the Port tab. Launch the second Y.1564 app through the Application selector. Select the second port, it will be the remote MT1000A. After loading the application, we also get to the Setup window, in which we need to configure the physical interfaces. Select the interface in the Port tab of the remote instrument. In the Streams tab, specify the MAC and IP settings. In our case, they should be inverse with respect to the local device. We also copy the settings of the first stream to the second and third streams. In the Settings tab, we are allowed to receive Accept Network Master configuration frames. Next, we configure Sync E, PTP, or OAM if required. Go back to the Port tab of the local instrument and click on the Link status box. Clear the history and check that all the required connection parameters are in order. Thus, we have configured the physical interfaces of the instrument. Go to the Test window, where you need to configure the Y.1564 testing parameters. In the Control tab, select the testing mode. There are two different test modes to choose from. One-way test, in which the end-to-end network is tested using a local and remote instrument. Round-trip test, which tests traffic with reflector at the far end. Select the network parameters, symmetric or asymmetric network, the method of synchronization, as well as the use of the local source as the destination of the remote site. Next, we select bitrate realm, taking into account the parameters of the interframe gap, preamble and the frame delimiter for the utilized line rate, or without them for the information rate. Set the time of the measurements. Go to the Services tab and set the parameters of each service that is required. For this test, we will configure 3 independent services: data, video, and voice. On the Profile tab, enable and set the data type for the first service, data. We set the CIR, committed information rate, for example 5000 megabits per second. Set the number of steps, duration, and slope. On the Bandwidth tab, set the EIR, access information rate. for example 1000 megabit per second, and select traffic policy. Set CBS, committed burst size, for example 50,000 bytes, and EBS, access burst size, 10,000 bytes. Next, configure the service acceptance criteria thresholds for the required parameters. Set the traffic policy margin threshold, for example 500 megabits per second. We will leave the rest of the thresholds as they are. Adjust color aware and frame size if necessary. Thus, we have configured one service, data. The transition between the settings of various services is available using the selection in the tab on the left. In this menu, you can also look at the characteristics of each service, including the utilized line rate. Select the second stream and enable it. Set the type of service, video. Confirm the changes. Set up the encoding and the number of channels, for example MPEG-4, 94 channels. CIR will be set automatically based on the previously selected settings. Set the number of steps, duration and slope. On the bandwidth tab, set the EIR, for example 200 megabits per second, and select traffic policy. Set CBS, for example 50,000 bytes and EBS 10,000 bytes. Next, set the traffic policy margin threshold, for example 100 megabits per second. Set up a color aware. The frame size is set based on the encoding settings. Thus, we set up a second service, video. Select the third stream and enable it. Set the type of service, voice. Confirm the changes. Configure the encoding and the number of channels, for example voice over IP G.711, and the maximum channels. CIR will be set automatically based on the previously selected settings. Set the number of steps, duration and slope. On the bandwidth tab, set the EIR, for example 200 megabits, and select the traffic policy. Set CBS, for example 50,000 bytes, and EBS 10,000 bytes. Next, set the traffic policy margin threshold, for example 100 megabits per second. Set up a color aware. The frame size is set based on the encoding settings. We have set up a third service, voice. Click Start, and the result window appears. The Summary tab displays a summary of the tests we have configured. The number of streams with names, the direction of testing from local to remote or vice versa, as well as the other current state of testing are displayed. First, the service configuration test is launched, during which the correctness of the settings of individual services is checked. After the service configuration test completes without errors, the service performance test is run, in which the services are tested all together, as it happens when using the network in real life. The total test time depends on the selected Y.1564 test settings and can be long. To speed up, let's skip the waiting time. After the test is completed, the Summary tab will display the information about the past test in pass-fail format, highlighted in green, yellow or red, so you can immediately understand which of the tests had errors. Each of the tabs displays the corresponding test results in the format of a graph or table with parameters. The Configuration Test and Performance Test tabs displays the detailed information on all streams, service parameters that have been tested. So, on the Performance tab, we can see all the necessary metrics: information rate, frame loss, frame transfer delay, frame delay variation and availability. The Event Log tab displays a log of events that occurred during testing. If any error occurs, detailed information about it will be displayed here. All detailed statistics are displayed on the Statistics tab. On the left, a timeline is displayed with labels that you can go back to, and the overall status of the entire time of the test. In the drop-down menu, you can select various parameters and view their statistics. To save the report, click on the document icon on the right menu. In the window, enter the necessary data: the file format, PDF, XML or CSV, the name of the client, project operator, load the logo, and click Generate. In the next window, select the Save directory, enter the file name, click OK, and save report. After saving, the report is available for viewing directly on the instrument. Click View PDF. The report will contain all the necessary information about the test, including complete statistics and log. Close the report and return to the application. Now we finished the Ethernet Y.1564 testing on the Network Master Pro MT1000A. At the end, it should be noted how you can simplify and speed up the setup of the instrument for testing. We can save the settings to the Favorites tab, so that then, when you restart the instrument, you can load all the settings with one click of a button. To do so, open the right menu and press Load Save. In the window, select the directory and file name, let's say y.1564test. Select Add to Favorites and click Save Settings. After that, you can go to the Favorites tab and make sure that the Quick Launch icon for the test appears. Thus, when starting the instrument, we can immediately go to the Favorites, load the settings with one button and go directly to testing. That is all for today, and if you have any questions, please contact Anritsu. Thanks for watching.